Good morning, I'm Kyle from the Hardscape Huddle, and today we're at Staffa Stone's open house. It's early October, the sun is coming out and really starting to make it swelter. And I'm with Joe Doran from Alliance Products. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Kyle. Thanks for having me.
And today's a special day for you. I'm surprised you're actually here.
I am here. I would be here for my customer. Got to support it.
I love it. Joe's wife is expecting any second, and it was iffy if he was going to to make it or not.
No, I'm glad I could be here. Yeah, it's hopefully I don't get yelled at later. But if
you're
I get
gonna
a phone
just
call,
get
you'll
used
know
to
why
it.
I'm out of here. But hopefully we have till at least Wednesday.
All right, Joe. So for the 2025 season, we have some new products being launched.
Yes, we do. Officially, as of today, I'm allowed to talk about it. So it was perfect timing for you to ask me. We're pretty excited here at Alliance. One of our newest products coming out is going to be Nitro X.
Okay.
Which is going to be able to do a smaller size joint. So I said our regular Nitro is 3/16 up to 2 inches. This is going to be 1/8 of an inch up to 2 inches. So it's going to open up some more potential. That was kind of a restriction of Nitro, is getting it in some of those smaller, tighter joints.
Yeah.
So basically it's a finer particle, which is, in theory it seems like, hey, that's easy. Let's just put some smaller particles and we're good to go. But you have more volume, more surface area, so it's harder to move that around. So what Alliance did is they came up with a proprietary resin.
That's an easy word for you to say.
I'm saying that once, so hopefully you guys got it. But new formula there that basically it's a stronger formula, and it's considered as rapid flow technology, which really kind of helps move those particles along, and it creates more of almost like a slurry on the surface, and it sets up almost twice as strong as the Nitro will.
Okay.
So that's one we're very excited for. We're going to have our X4 edging, which is also a cool new product. Instead of an 8-foot piece of plastic edging, it's a 4-foot. With snap and lock technology, so you can actually lock it in place quickly. People are asking, hey, why 4 foot? Why 8? It's more convenient, It's more point of purchase.
Easier to handle.
Exactly, so there's a lot of benefits we see to that, as well as the hole's gonna be closer to the edge of the paver, so less rolling out there.
Okay.
And then the big one, which I know is gonna be a longer conversation, is we are getting into the turf. So we're gonna have our line of turf, as well as all the accessories that come with it. So we can use our XP glue now with turf. We're going to have the spikes, the seam tape, different versions and styles of the turf, as well as infill. We're going to have different options. So a full family and collection of turf products is going to be coming from Alliance as well.
Nice. We're going to go over to your booth, and I believe you have a representative, Jose, with you?
Yeah, Jose and I.
Okay.
I think Jose is going to take a little bit of the charge, but we're both going to be there hands-on with it to do a little demonstration between the Nitro and the G2.
And this is going to be the 2024 formula, correct?
No, this will be 2024. I'm sorry. Yes,
okay.
It'll be our current formula. It's going to show some of the difference. We'll talk about some of the different benefits and applications used. They're both good options, but some of them may shine better in different purposes. So, we just want to make sure we hammer home make sure everybody's installing, especially the G2 sand right. Just get the hammering points so everybody's familiar with it. And they're all great products, but it's always good to get further educated on them.
Yeah, it's reinvestment into your own business.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's go over to your booth
Awesome.
and take a look.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Joe, we finally made it back over to your booth.
We're over here. We wanted the sun up.
We actually picked up a stray, too.
There he is.
We got Jose. He's going to demonstrate the G2 Max and the Nitro.
So which one are we going to start with?
Let's start with the G2 Max.
Why would we do that?
That's a great question. It's a beautiful sunny day, but once that gets wet, it's over with, right?
Exactly. So that's we'll get into that, some of the features there. We'll start with the G2 Max, but
so, one of the things we want to point out is basically there is no dust, haze-free, no blower, and 1 watering steps. The old formula, 3 watering steps. This one, we only need 1 watering step. So the first thing we're gonna do is rip the bag open. And before we actually dump this down, you should always make sure that everything's completely dry. So if you didn't spend the night where your pavers are at, please pull a paver off, make sure that it's completely dry.
The sub-base has to be dry as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's a key thing with the G2 is you want it completely dry, because if there's any kind of moisture presence, you can risk premature activation of the joints or sticking to the surface, which could lead to a haze and a mess overall.
Right,
So
right.
you definitely want a nice dry day like we have today.
Depending on the size of your pavers and as big as your joints, 1 bag would make anywhere from 50 to 85 square footage on it.
And that's all going to depend on the paver size too. You're going to have a range there. So, I mean, something like this, you might get a little bit more coverage, about 75 square feet. But it all really depends. If you're using a bunch of, 4x8s, or if you're using a large format, it's going to vary. So job by job.
Well, it also depends on the thickness, right? If I'm using, say, a Techo Block Blue 80 where it's a little thicker, we've got to get this sand all the way to the bottom, correct?
Exactly, 100%. As you'll see as he's sweeping it, one of the main benefits here of our G2 is it's a lot cleaner of a formula.
Right, I don't see any dust blowing around like it used to be.
Exactly. You know, I think we mentioned this earlier during the interview. It was, you know, going back 20 years ago, there's a lot of different issues with polysand. Polyhaze became a very common thing.
Yeah.
And, you know,
and if you don't do it right, you still get polyhaze. Not so much with this brand.
With the G2, it's, you know, you did well. If you figured a way to get polyhaze, you did a good job there.
Right.
It's a very, you know, what we did is we used a new cleaner formula polymer that neutralizes the haze and dust. We really don't see much polyhaze almost ever with this type of product there. So
now, as part of sweeping it, you want to get it all within the joints. You want to take different angles as far as 45, sweep it up, down, as much as different angles as possible. Basically, you want to get it in the joints.
So
you want to leave a thin layer on top.
Yeah, so
we're not using any particular broom, just a regular street broom.
Yeah,
right now, we're using a regular broom. As far as going forward, the biggest thing we want to do that everybody tends to skip is compacting the sand going in there. Now, right now, it's going to do a manual compaction, but basically you want to use a roller or not a plate compactor. Please make sure that you actually have the pad underneath the plate compactor.
And that's an incredibly important step, Kyle. I feel like that a lot of guys are skipping. You know, they say, hey, I compacted my pavers right away. Why do I need to compact the sand again? Hey, I know your pavers are set in, but really, you could see even him just tapping that with a rubber mallet.
You're vibrating that sand down the joint.
Exactly. So you're missing, if you don't compact, you're missing anywhere maybe from 20 to 40% sand. You can get a lot more sand in that joint. The more sand, you're going to have a denser joint and more polymer content. So that's a crucial step that I swear 9 times out of 10 when I talk to anybody that say, hey, I'm trying to figure out what happened on this job, it seems like they skip that for whatever reason. Alliance and pretty much all the anybody else polysand, compaction is 100% necessary. And as Jose said, you're going to be careful with the larger format. So a roller compactor, which you guys offer them, is a great investment. Or do you guys rent it out there? Is that
we do rent it out so people can give it a try. We've had good luck with it. Typically, once they try the roller compactor over their pavers, they tend to keep it.
Yeah.
And then we take the rental fee off.
Sure. So you can see here, this is kind of gives an interesting point. So a lot of guys, you know, they'll use traditional base, we would say underneath their concrete, sand, and crushed stone. A lot of guys are switching to that chip stone. And when you start vibrating, you lose a lot of that material in there. We're losing it because we're on top of a pallet a little bit, so you don't get that much compaction there. But you can just see you do get a lot more sand in that joint there. So I'd say, you know, you want to do it maybe 2-3 times, sweep the sand out, compact.
And a mechanical tamper is what you typically want to use, not necessarily a hand tamper or something like that, correct?
And you want to go to different angles too as well.
Yeah.
Up, down, left, right.
Yeah, so exactly that. You want to use a roller or a plate, but for the sake of the size of the demo, it makes more sense to just use a rubber mallet to illustrate the importance of it.
Right, gotcha.
So
now after the compaction, we compacted it twice, broomed it in twice. We have a good solid foundation right there with a small bristle brush. Basically, we want to sweep the rest of it off and try to set the joint heights with a soft brush.
So yeah, what I like to do, I know we mentioned you can use a street broom, and that's perfectly fine. I like starting with a stiffer bristle broom. If you have a pile, it's easier to move that pile around. And then when you come back for this phase where you're really trying to set your joint height, a finer broom really kind of does a good job of that, because you want your joint height to be 1/8 of an inch below the chamfer. It's probably the second most common thing I get called out are joints being a little bit overfilled. Polysand in particular is not meant to come up flush with the surface of the paver. It's supposed to be that 1/8 inch regressed, and that has a couple of benefits. One, just visually,
absolutely.
If I wanted
and that's where most of the mistakes are. How many jobs do you go on that you see they're over full?
A lot more than it should be there. You know, a lot of them say, hey, the homeowner likes it that way. I said, no, the homeowner's paying for a paver. That's a 3-dimensional thing. If they want it flat, they might as well just pour concrete.
Right.
So, but there's multiple benefits to the joint height. Once it's lower, well, I think he's going to use the blower to set up the joint height a little bit to get it that 1/8 inch below. But one, polysand's not meant to come in foot contact and abrasion. It's supposed to be regressed in there. So it helps with that. And 2, with the watering process. If you have a little bit of a regressed joint, that 1/8 inch below, the water can kind of pool and pond around the paver and really get a chance to soak in and saturate.
So polysand isn't as easy as everybody thinks it is.
No, and it's the last thing on the job. So, a lot of times guys are just like,
let's get done and let's get paid.
Who cares? It's sand.
But this is the detail that makes all the job.
Exactly. It's the final touch. You don't want to do all that hard work and then have a polysand issue.
Yep.
So compaction is the number one thing we want to really hammer home. Second is that joint height. You really want it 1/8 of an inch below that chamfer. From there, you know, he used a blower. We promote no blower on the G2. That's because it's very clean. I personally say, hey, use a blower. It helps set
Get that excess off.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, if you can zoom in a little closer, this is what we mean by the valley and the chamfer. Right here, we want to create where the water goes and guide the water off your project of the low. So basically, when it rains, this will dry up a lot quicker. Water will gather up at this location right here and then run right off your project.
So behind us, we have a
Electric
pump
water tank.
and a water tank.
So
You guys thought of everything today.
That's it. Once in a while, we get it right. So yeah, so we
The good thing is we got brand new asphalt that we're displaying on, and we're gonna make this all wet and
gunked up.
Ah, that's okay.
Hey,
We got cleaners. Alliance got cleaners for this.
Blow out polystyrene joints
Right.
after. So he did his compaction. We swept it off. It's a nice clean surface. Now we're gonna go on to the watering process.
And what I'm using, well, not this particular one, but what you want to use is a garden hose with a shower setting.
Absolutely.
Now, the reason the shower setting is you don't blow out the sand, lands right on top of it, and you had a lot of water coming out at the same time. This sets it in about 15 minutes, and pretty much you're gonna water it for 30 seconds, 30 square footage. So it's taking in a lot of water. Hopefully we'll see a white foam come out, but if we don't, there we go. Now that white foam is not the poly running off the project. That is basically a chemical that helps bring down the water. So basically, you're filling out the joints to about 1.5 inches, and that water is gonna go all the way down and push the glue up. What you really want is a thick crust on it. So as soon as you see that white, don't stop watering, keep watering it until it starts rejecting the water.
And that's maybe one of the newest things over the last 5 or 10 years, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
It used to, in my opinion, it used to be that once you see that white foam, stop.
Yeah, and that's a common misconception now. You're completely right there. So it used to be a 3-part watering process. So a lot of the old formulas, hey, a very light mist or shower, which is mist is the worst last word I ever want to hear with how you activate your water joints there. But it used to be a lighter watering, come back a second and third time to get your full penetration. Here with the G2, I can't stress enough the importance of getting a heavy watering right from the start. We said 30 seconds for 30 square feet on shower. You know, we're a little modified here with the setup here as far as the hose, but that shower setting's huge, and 30 seconds for 30 square feet's a lot of water, guys. You can see as he did having that regress in there, you get that ability for the water to kind of moat around there and really soak in. I feel like, you know, I said compaction and overfilled joints are common. Number 3, biggest problem with G2 if I ever go out there and somebody's having an issue, not enough water. You know, they'll very much say, hey, I lightly misted it, moved on, and that's when you can get a very thin crust.
That's a thin crust at the top, and it's peeling off.
So I always say, hey, if you guys are on the fence if you put enough water or not, put more. Basically, until that polysand stops drinking it up and it starts floating on top there, that's when you know the sand is taking all the water it needs.
Okay, so as that dries, can we test out this nitro?
Absolutely, we can.
This is basically what we're looking for as far as the crust on top. This is what you want compared to what you don't want. It's a thin layer, right? So if you water it very lightly, not enough water, not compaction, not enough product within those joints, you're gonna get something like this that don't last long. So compaction is very important in there. This is what it brings you.
And then, yeah, that's it. So compaction, right, joint set right, and water. Last question I do get asked is when people see that white foam, that's once again, that's not the polymers washing away, and that's not gonna stain the surface. You can leave that on there, that'll be fine. I personally, if I have a blower on idle, you know, and you want to clean it up, that's not going to harm anything there.
So it'll dry up those joints a little quicker.
So, but now we're going to switch on over to the nitro, which, hey, look, there's a little bit of overspread water. Can we still do this here?
You should be able to. This is rain safe. You can do this in the rain. So if you have those stubborn jobs that you're trying to get off of, right?
Yeah.
This would be the project or the proper product to use.
Absolutely. And I mean, you know, the product's going to have its different applications. You know, whether it's raining, what's the joint size? We're going to have some restrictions on that. We'll go into that. But you want to start it, Jose?
Well, you let me know. Can I dunk this directly on it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, you can't because we need to wet the surface first.
So the first thing we want to do is make sure everything is wet. If you're going to be working alongside a wall, wet the wall. Most importantly, please wet the tools. The water's your friend here. The water's the barrier.
Yeah, so nitro, they use the term hydrophobic. I guess so it's afraid of water. Really what they're saying is it won't stick to anything that's wet. So that's how you're going to really be able to protect the surface from any kind of action from the sand sticking to the tools, retaining walls, anything it might come in contact with.
A little bit more expensive for this product initially, but what I see Jose doing is opening a bag that is already used.
Exactly. So that's what I was just about to get into. So We did have an open package already, but I did want to go a little bit into the packaging first, and then I'll explain the how you can preserve it there.
That's got water in it.
Exactly.
So we can't use that. Should be hard.
That's it. That's the benefit of Nitro. So we'll start with that. Is if you have any excess, you can put water about 2 inches above whatever material you have left, and it'll still be good up to a month. But prior to that, that's not how it comes in the bucket. In the bucket's going to be sealed, and it's going to have a sealed bag. So the reason it gets its name Nitro is it cures through the oxygen process. Polysand cures through the watering. The water basically brings the glue up to the surface and forms that crust. This, however, is more curing through the air and oxygen, drying it out. So that's why the Nitro comes. The bucket's infused with nitrogen, the bag's infused with nitrogen to keep it airtight. So in there you'll have a sealed bag with no water, but it is kind of gummy. You've felt it before.
Yes.
It's it's gummy. It's got
bubble gum underneath the bottom of the school desk.
That's it, just like that on a hot summer day. But
so Nitro requires a 2-man job, so I'll be having assistance on this one.
Yeah, Jose's right. It's definitely a lot easier with 2 guys, because you need a lot of water with this product to help get it moving around. You can't overwater this, so don't be afraid of that. It really is what kind of helps get the product into the joints.
Do we have to use a broom, or can we use a different type of tool?
You could use a broom or a squeegee for this.
Okay.
So either tool would work. Depending on the surface. I do like the broom there, but the biggest thing, which hopefully we're getting enough with this, is water pressure's key on this, because a lot of times I'll use the actual water pressure to help set that joint height. I probably want to get that low on the job, but I'd have a little bit better pressure there.
Yep.
So, a 45-degree angle to help kind of push and set the surface there.
Now, the other good thing with Nitro, you don't need a compact. Pretty much, once you get it in the joints, you set the height, and you're done.
You're basically watering it in.
Pretty much. Water helps you out. Water's your friend. Creates the barrier, makes it smoother for it to go in.
So you can see as Joe puts more water on it, it'll go down into the joints a little bit better.
Yeah, so that it really helps to move it. Like I said, a lot of water on this will really keep and clean the surfaces. The cool thing about this is, even when you're done, this is going to get rock hard. This is going to get hard from top to bottom. So it's going to feel more like a mortar joint. So you can even go back and tool this if you wanted to, if you're working with a wider joint or natural stone.
Yeah.
In addition to the pavers. But it's a different type of install, but you really can't stress enough how much water will be your friend on this one. So it's one of those ones, hey, which application's better? It's going to be more of a choice type thing. It's situational.
Can you use this on wet laid products?
No.
Such as bluestone or something like that?
Once it's wet laid, you need a drainable base for this. You need a drainable base for both, honestly. A concrete sand. But this, more and more guys are using it when they're using a number 8, number 9 stone chip base. One of the key benefits is it is permeable. So once he's done setting it, I can kind of try to demonstrate. You'll see the water when it puddles up on here, it'll get soaked into those joints. So you don't want water getting soaked into a base that doesn't drain.
Right.
And even more importantly, if you do have a drainable base, you do need some kind of exfiltration pipe or somewhere for that water to go, because you're inviting water into the system here with Nitro.
Gotcha.
So, you see he cleaned it off pretty well with the broom. The final touch I like to use for the regular Nitro, you can see that hosing really kind of helps set the joints and clean off that final surface there. So yeah, main benefits of that are going to be, like, once again, hardened from top to bottom. You can install it rain or shine, and it's permeable. Some of the restrictions are you need at least a 3/16 inch joint for this product, but we kind of did a teaser earlier.
Yeah, we did.
So today is the first day we can announce our Nitro X, which is going to be able to do an 1/8 inch joint, and it's going to have a bit better color palette. We're going to have some lighter colors as well to it there. But that's where I'd see some restrictions with the Nitro is if you have too tight of a joint, it can really be a battle to get it in there. So make sure you're using the right joint height, and a lot of guys, really seem to like it because you get rid of the compaction, you get that rock hard properties.
So you're skipping one step, you're just adding a little bit extra.
Exactly.
But you can do this in the rain, and let's get off that job.
Exactly.
Get to the next one.
And you can see here, that's the water's going on there. It's permeable, it'll flow right into that joint, which is a pretty nice feature for it, depending on if we want the water to go down there or not.
That's
Polysand,
awesome.
Majority of it's going to shear off.
And how soon before we walk on this?
Either one, I would say you're pretty safe to walk on it right away. If it's a driveway, I'd say probably try to give it at least 24 hours, but we say with the Nitro about 18-hour curing time. But if you have a hot summer day, that's going to feed a lot quicker.
And now as the wind starts to pick up, it'll dry a little quicker too.
Exactly, because it's getting that airflow going through there. So 2 really good products and 2 different really options.
And with the Nitro, you have a little bit less waste because we can clean these edges up, throw it in a bucket, and reuse it again.
Exactly, and that's what we did the first time, so that's why I was open with that. So
you got to make sure you got water 2 inches over the Nitro itself.
Inside the bucket.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does it have to be in the bag?
I'm sorry?
Does it have to be in that bag
Not
or just in the
necessarily.
bucket?
No, you can just dump it in the bucket.
It has to be 2 inches over the water. So
Okay.
if you got 8 inches, you want to add another 2 10 inches overall.
Beautiful. Well, guys, I thank you very much for putting
Yeah.
on this small demo for us today. I think hopefully shed some light for everybody.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you. And, you know, if you have any questions, you guys, Staffa, you guys are a great resource. We're here. Ask Your Alliance member. I know you have a pretty big network going on right now. So we have reps all over the country. So if you need to get in touch with any Alliance and want more questions or about any of our products, please don't hesitate
And
to
you
reach
guys will
out.
be at H&A.
Yes, we will be having a booth down there and have a handful of guys there. So
Beautiful.
please come by and see it, and any questions.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
being here.